talked about schools, but even if you just walk
Very complicated agendas.
Does it actually mean anything at all?
Okay, this is right or wrong, but it doesn't actually follow it.
We've been in a recession for a few years now.
Have any of you been impacted?
Real stories.
We learn from one another.
Real issues. Is Islam a threat? And real views. This is Real Talk.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Real Talk Africa, a program where we bring to you informative and educative programs surrounding real-life issues in African communities. I am Abdul Qadir Ismail Uluagbemiga, and on this episode of Real Talk Africa, we delve into one of the most pressing and complex issues of our time, religious extremism. In the past decade, religious extremism has become a global menace, affecting countries and communities across continents. As of 2023, the Global Terrorism Index reports that over 15,000 people have lost their lives to acts of terrorism, with a significant number attributed to extremist groups claiming religious justifications. Today, I'll be speaking with experts and community leaders who are on the front lines of this fight. I have with me a peace ambassador of the Cardinal Onayekon Foundation for Peace, the former co-chairman of the Nigerian Interreligious Council, Lagos State Chapter, and an associate professor of Arabic and Mid Eastern Literature, Professor Muhammad Saeed Olurati Mitimei. Professor Saab.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I also have with me an Islamic scholar of distinguished repute, a seasoned missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community of Nigeria, Muallim Abdul Fattah Edun. Muallim Saab.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I also have with me an academic and an advocate for peace, justice, and strong institutions, Dr. Yakub Oyebo. Dr. Saab.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Viewers, before we continue, let us watch a short video that will give us a further insight into today's topic of discussion.
Religious extremism refers to the belief in and support for extreme or violent religious ideologies that often lead to discrimination, hatred, and even violence against individuals or groups who hold different beliefs or identities. It can involve using religion to justify harm or violence against others, or forcing others to adhere to a specific interpretation of religious beliefs. Religious extremism has a long and complex history that spans across various religions and regions. From ancient times, religious wars and persecutions were common in ancient civilizations such as the Egyptian, Greek, and Roman empires. Religious extremism was often tied to political power struggles and territorial expansions. In the medieval period, the Crusades in the year 1095 to 1291 saw Christian armies clash with Muslim forces in the Middle East, fueled by religious zealotry. The total number of deaths is estimated to be between 1 and 3 million people. The Inquisition, an ecclesiastical tribunal established by Pope Gregory in the year 1232, saw the Catholic Church persecute heretics and minority groups. This also led to destruction of many lives and properties. In the modern era, the 18th and 19th centuries saw the rise of nationalist and anti-colonial movements, often tied to religious identity. The 28th century witnessed the emergence of extremist groups like the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and the ISIS, who use religion to justify violence and terrorism. The recent time has seen the continued menace of Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria. According to Global Terrorism Index, more than 35,000 people are estimated to have been killed as a result of Boko Haram attacks between 2009 and 2020. Religious extremism continues to manifest globally, with various groups using religion to justify intra- and inter-religious skirmishes, violence, discrimination, and political agendas. The internet and social media have enabled extremist ideologies to spread rapidly and recruit new followers. It is crucial to note that religious extremism is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon influenced by historical, political, social, and economic factors. It is essential to approach the topic with nuance and understanding. Why is religious extremism growing across the world? Does Islam encourage and justify religious extremism? How can religious extremism be combated and prevented in our contemporary world? Stay tuned as panelists on Real Talk Africa discuss the phenomenon of religious extremism, demystifying the attitude of Islam towards it, and how the world can get rid of its menace.
Welcome back. We understand that religious extremism is indeed becoming a global menace. So, starting with Professor Timehin Sahib. Professor Sahib, how can you please describe religious extremism and tell us about its roots, especially in African communities?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Religious extremism, a term that covers a wide range of issues. In recent times, particularly according to in light of your intro, it is very common to connect it with terrorism or violent actions. But in reality, it is far, far wider than that because it has levels. Because basically, it is just any uncritical zeal, unfounded enthusiasm concerning a particular religious belief to such an extent that it leads to ideological exclusivism, that you're not ready to tolerate anything that is different from yours, that you have this totalitarian interpretation of your own position, and you believe you are right, every other person is wrong. And this ideal life must be approached from a purely monolithic perspective. So that's extremism, and it operates at different level, ideological / intellectual level, when it is reflected in your thoughts, when it's reflected in your teachings. Then at the social level, it reflects in ceremonies. Then you have at the moral / behavioral level, when certain ethical codes are taken to unrealistic extremes that does not accommodate necessities. Because when you are driven by necessity, there are certain concessions that should be granted, but you are not just ready to do it. And of course, at the political level, that's when violence comes into it, when it's a public expression of that extremism that dwells in the heart. So another name for it is fanaticism. It's a thought process. It's something that develops within you. If you want to talk about the factors that will make such thoughts develop, it's a different thing. But religious extremism is just taking religious principles to the extreme.
I can see that there is more to religious extremism than the average person can even fathom. Dr. Yebo Sahib, as someone who resonates well within the community, what do you think are the community-based solutions in response to religious extremism?
So, Jazakallah khair. Our society, state level, from national, state, local government, the community, we have community development associations that are everywhere in our community. Now, but I think what we need to actually emphasize is to actually tell people why those structures are there. They are not just there for being there sake. They are there to actually control, to take care of some, like this issue of where we have people who want to actually use some individual to achieve their aim. Because most of those things you see about extremism, whether a group wanting to manipulate some group to achieve their own aim or whatever, those are the things that actually bring about all these ideas that with extremism. So one of the community-based solutions is that we engage, especially mostly the youth, we engage them in things, dialogue, that will actually dissuade them from religious extremisms. Whatever, even in social extremism, because most of these things they communicate from bit by bit, they come together, they accumulate, and become something, a monster that actually consumes the society. So if at that level, we're intra-community debate where we actually espouse the reason why we must harmoniously live together religiously. From there, we have inter-religious debate, discourse, where we actually tell all of the parties involved how we should tolerate ourselves religiously. No, do not have any extreme view, because what you are holding as the way it is dear to you is the way it is dear to the religious others are holding to. That is the way it is dear to them. So you can't impose yours on them. So we encourage tolerance, interreligious communication, debate, where we actually give boundaries.
So you mean we must continually engage in
interreligious dialogue to be able to make sure that people actually see ourselves as brothers and as a peace lover who wants to live together amicably, harmoniously.
Jazakumullahu khairan, Dr. Saab, for that wonderful message. Now back to my audience. Audience, you have listened to what our guests have to say about religious extremism, how we can curb religious extremism, both in the light of Islamic teaching and within the community. So what do you have to say about religious extremism?
I am Usman Ahmad Raza. In my opinion, I believe as comprehensive as the religion of Islam is, it is also versatile. And following what the white man would say, that variety is the spice of life, I think our differences should add to the beauty of Islam itself instead of causing unhealthy competition or terrorism.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Mubarak Toye. When you mention the word religious extremism in today's world, the first thing that will come to an average person's mind is Islam, as I've mentioned before. Of course, we know already that, according to what Dr. Saab said, that religious extremism cuts across all religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. But I want to be particular about Islam, because in today's world, when you mention the word religious extremism, what we come to an average mind is Islam. Well, thanks to the media anyway. But when you look at the teachings of Islam itself, it's full of peace, tolerance. In fact, the literal meaning of Islam itself is peace. And ironically, I'm sorry, I can be sensitive to some religious scriptures. When you look at some other religious scriptures, like the Gospel, the Old Testament and New Testament, you find in them some teachings that can say they are extreme. For example, stoning of witches and wizards in the Bible. But when you look, contrary to teachings of Islam, we have peaceful teachings in Islam, and we have example of peaceful and religious tolerance from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I have a kind of question that if a non-Muslim wants to ask a question, can he say, or can a non-Muslim say that there's something fundamentally wrong with Islam, or something fundamentally wrong about Muslim? Because when you look at the Muslim world today, as I've said, religious extremism, we say, is more pronounced in Muslim society. Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, we have Boko Haram in Nigeria, and we have them. Of course, we have other extreme view in other religions, but it's more pronounced in Islam today, thanks to the media anyway. I may be wrong, but an average man says that. Not everybody will be intellectually, okay to see all that. So can a non-Muslim say something is fundamentally wrong in Islam? Because I want to make one point. I watched a discussion with a discussion of one Iranian human rights activist in UK. I think she's a refugee in the UK with a Muslim imam, and she said that there are more than 70 capital punishments for blasphemy in Iran, despite the fact that we have the United Nations fundamental human rights, with freedom to religion, freedom to speech. But we have these countries that there's no right for free exit from the religion, and yet they are all assigned to this fundamental human rights. So can we say there's something fundamentally wrong with their belief?
Okay, Jazakumullahu khairan for that wonderful question. I would want respected Professor Timei Sahib to respond to that question.
It's a good thing the question was asked. Actually, I wasn't too comfortable when I didn't have the opportunity of discussing that aspect, because it is not just as easy as Missionary Sahib has said that, okay, if the pristine teachings of Islam are this or that. Your concept of pristine teachings is highly individualistic. It depends on the individual, because most of the problems we have are interpretive. It is the difference in interpretation of specific things. It is the same La Iqra fi Din you will read, which others will read and give a different interpretation too. So it is not just a case of, and most of the things that radicalize people, that turn them into fanatics or extremists, are in the medieval Islamic jurisprudence. Those things are written there. Most of this, let me give you a very simple example. There is an hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet said, "Umirtu an uqatila nasa atta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah." I have been commanded to fight the people until they bear witness that there is no God except Allah. What does that mean? The easy interpretation, the nearest, what rushes to your mind is, this is religious extremism. It is an intolerant ideology. But it is only when it is deconstructed for the people, when the Prophet says, Umirtu, I have been commanded. Who commands the Prophet? Allah. And what is the manual containing the commandments of the Prophet of Allah to the Prophet? That's the Quran. When a companion says, Umirtu, I have been commanded, it means Amarani ya Rasul, the messenger of Allah commanded me. But when then the Prophet himself said, I have been commanded, it means Allah has commanded. So you just ask, where did Allah command him? You go into the Quran and you see the قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. Fight those who fight against you and do not transgress. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Allah does not love the transgressors. So from there, you are able to put the hadith in its right perspectives. Unfortunately, in most of the classical manuals, what you have is this intolerant ideology. So those things, those principles or precepts that are actually radicalizing the people are there in our Islamic heritage. And you can only, so it is not just a matter of re-education of the people. We want to re-educate them, but will they receive that education? You need a supreme moral authority, the institution of Khilafah, an authority that represents the prophetic stool to give that guidance. It's only those people or such a person who knows the path that can lead you on the path. One of the most popular writings of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, the founder of Wahhabiyya, is the Kitabu Tawheed. In the preface to Kitabu Tawheed, you see terrorism clearly preached. He said, Innal mar'a law wahhada Allah wa taraka ash-shirka la yastaqimu lahu islamuhu illa bi muharabati al-mushrikeen. That a Muslim, a person, even if he believes that Allah is one, even if he abstains from polytheism, from shirk, لا يستقيم له إسلامه إلا بمحاربة المشركين. His Islam will never be complete. His Islam will never be perfect unless he wages war against the polytheists. That is an intolerant ideology inherited by millions of people. Look at the generations from the time of Abdul Wahab till today. Go to Saudi Arabia today, anytime you go for Hajj, this is one of the books that will be given to you free of charge as a gift. So it is not realistic to just think, oh, we'll teach the people. You teach the people will choose not, because most of the time we are products of the choices we make. People are exposed to multiple interpretations. And your interpretation is just one out of many. So what you really need is a moral authority, a global moral authority to show the way. So that what I would say, for example, cannot carry the weight of what a Khalifa will say. So when the Khalifa speaks, he can address audiences I cannot address. He can talk to heads of state. He can talk to leaders of communities. So at the end of the day, his statement, his utterances will have more impact, a greater impact on the people, and it can easily reorientate them, and they will have a total change of attitude. Other than that, you just can't. All these things we've been teaching it for so many years. In the universities, we have taught them, this is jihad, this is it, this is that. People have continued to look at you as fool. Can you be? Look at you are just a 21st century scholar. Can you be as brilliant as Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab or Ibn Taymiyyah? This is the problem. Unless somebody with such stature comes out, and that is what the Azra Khalifatul Masih is actually doing. All of the Khulafa have done wonderfully in this regard.
MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah for the blessing of Khilafah. Jazakumullahu khairan once again, Professor Sahib. Right now, viewers, before we continue with our discussion, I have a guest with me on phone. I have with me Dr. Badr Muhammad Bashir. He is a legal practitioner and a lecturer at the Nigerian Police Academy, Kano. Barrister Saab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Barrister Saab, some critics argue that the laws and policies aimed at preventing religious extremism infringe on the religious freedom. How far should government go in preventing religious extremism without overstepping the boundaries of religious freedom? We want you to give us the side of the law.
Actually, my understanding of your question is balancing the prevention of religious extremism with the protection of religious freedom. Well, this is a complex and delicate task for any government. Although where these key principles and considerations are used, they may help navigate this balance. Number one, adherence to the rule of law. Governments should ensure that any measure taken to prevent religious extremism are firmly grounded in existing legal frameworks and respect constitutional rights. Laws should be clear, specific, and narrowly tailored to address the threats without being overly broad or vague. Number two, protection of fundamental rights. It is essential for government to protect fundamental rights of every human, including freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religion. Measures should not discriminate against any particular religion or belief system and should avoid targeting entire religious community, like branding Islam extremism or race extremism or fundamentalists or fanatics. Government should ensure that fundamental rights of every religion is protected. Number three, proportionality. Any restriction on religious practice should be proportionate to the threat posed. This means that the measure should be the least restrictive necessary to achieve the intended security objectives and should not impose undue burden on religious practices. Number 3, transparency and accountability. Government should be transparent about the reasons for implementing specific measures and should be accountable for their actions. This includes providing mechanisms for oversight and avenues for redress if individuals believe their rights are being violated. Number 5, engagement with religious communities. Engaging with religious leaders and communities can help build trust and cooperation. This can foster mutual understanding and assist in identifying and addressing potential sources of extremism within a framework of respect for religious freedom. Number 6 is focus on violent extremism. Policies should specifically target violent extremisms and not non-violent practices. Extremism that leads to or incites violence can be legitimately restricted, but peaceful expression of religious belief, even if they are considered extreme by some, should be protected. Number 7, international standards. Government should align their actions with international human rights standards, such as those articulated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, which provide guidance on the permissible limitations on religious freedoms. And finally, education and counter-narratives. Promoting education and counter-narratives that challenge extremist ideologies can be effective in preventing radicalization. This approach respects religious freedom while addressing the root causes of extremism. Ultimately, the government's approach should be nuanced and balanced, ensuring that measures to prevent extremism do not erode the fundamental rights and freedoms that they are meant to protect. The goal should be to create a society where security and freedom coexist and where individuals are protected from violence without having to compromise their religious beliefs and practices. Thank you very much.
Jazakumullahu khairan to our respected scholar for that insight and giving us the side of the law. Coming back to our respected scholars in the studio, Muallim Edno Sahib. Muallim Sahib, we understand that the social media has contributed to spreading the message of religious extremists. In fact, they propagate their teachings on the social media. So what can we do to prevent the spread of these teachings through the social media?
Sincerely, the social media, the role of the social media in this regard is not fair at all. And most times it is always, it's almost linked to the hatred they have for Islam. As it has been explained, because this extremism is not only restricted to Islam. Professor Saab has explained why it is not only confined to Islam alone. It's cut across all religions in the world, even before Islam. That's to tell you that individuals are only exhibiting their own ideologies and all that. Now, if the social media is now playing this role as the Muslims who know the original teachings of Islam, we should not just restrict our own knowledge or our comments by saying the social media plays so role in this regard. We should also go to that same media to debunk and teach and educate and re-educate the people on the exact and the original teachings of Islam. It is not suffice to say we read what they say and we also watch on social media, on TV, listen to radio, we read on print media, Twitter, Facebook, and all that. So many things are there that are disheartening, which are also not, it does not dignify Islam as a whole. What we need to do, as a matter of my own suggestion, is that we should also go to that same media where we read those trash and nonsense about the position of Islam to tell them and educate them on the real teachings of Islam. That is number one. Secondly, we should also, I also, appeal to the government that they should also place a law. There should be a law regulating all these media. When any offender, anybody who goes there to say trash or say nonsense about what will not dignify Islam and knows that there is going to be a penalty for that offense, would not quickly go there to do the same. If he's punished for whatever he does today and he knows that it's not right, he will not be quick in going there tomorrow and do the same thing. And when doing this, and the social media, apart from those individuals that go there, those people who are also showcasing what they have, we should also be regulated. When they have punishment too, that will also be regulating them, at least it will go a long way in reducing the level at which people are wrongly fed on social media.
Jazakumullahu khairan, Missionary Sahib. Now coming back to Dr. Oyeba Sahib. So as someone who is close to the government and the people, I want to ask, how do you think the government can come in to react to issues of religious extremism?
With respect to government, they have introduced so many measures. Controls, dialogue, help to propagate religious tolerance in the media. There was a time there was this organization that are actually giving a positive government fund them. There are other non-governmental organizations that are actually doing all those things. But the problem now is that the coordination of all these measures, okay, the one that they said, I know that there are sites, there are some things that you cannot do there. If you do it, they'll put down your site. So if we have WhatsApp there, if they discover that they are becoming a nuisance, there should be a policy that will pull it down so that it will serve as a deterrent to others. So that is one of the measures. Government should monitor and see to the enforcement of all those measures that are put in place. That is on the side. The other one is, the government can also it's also a grant. I know Professor Timei, there was a time he was one of the government, a committee or something that is actually looking into how inter-religion activities should be moderated. So we have religious leaders. What quickly came to mind is the issue of when the election, the activities that was gathering before the election in 2023, when there were so many. So all those views that were held by most of the religious leaders, they were extreme views. There should be a way government should play a role in that. If there was a time they went to a church during the COVID, when they discovered, told them not to have a congregation, they went and arrested them. So things like that should also be done to curb religious extremism.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Jazakumullahu khairan very much, sir. Professor Saab, as an expert in the field of interreligious dialogue, understanding that you have served with the Nigerian Interreligious Council, how do you think interreligious dialogue, mediation, and other tools can play a role in curbing the menace of religious extremism?
Well, the Interreligious Council has been very active, particularly between 2006 and 2016. We had a series of mediations. We were actually able to nip some crises in the bud before they actually broke out. But it has, NIREC, that's what it's called, Nigerian Intelligence Council, has its limitations. It is not every religious organization that's registered with NIREC. That we do not have any power to compel any organization to join NIREC. Even the Christian Association of Nigeria, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, do not have the wherewithal to force anybody to register. So if I just open up a mosque and start teaching wrong ideologies, and you open up a church and start doing the same thing, there is very little anybody can do about that, because of the fundamental human rights. You have your rights of adopting any faith tradition you want. So that is one of the major limitations. But we can actually come in the area of hate speeches. If you come out and you start promoting hate speeches, we can report to the government and the government will come in. But one of the challenges we've had over the years is that even the people in government have vested interests. Okay, I am in government and the person making the hate speech is my pastor or my imam. So what do I do? So you discover that many a time some of these things will be swept under the carpet. So I think we in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community should be more visible on the social media, teaching the right thing. Not because the number of people teaching positivity is far, far lower than the number of people promoting negativities. So as a result, our ears are inundated every day with all these things. And you see attacks and counterattacks, verbal attacks and counter-verbal attacks on a daily basis. And there is nobody calling them to. You have inter-religious, then you have intra-religious. There are those whose primary assignment is to attack Ahmadiyya as we see them, and there are those who attack the Tijaniyas, the Qadiriyas, particularly the Salafis attacking them, and they are also, that is mutual mudslinging. So at the end of the day, the whole thing is chaotic. So that brings us back to the same thing I said earlier, and that is, apart from the missionaries of the Jamaat and all of those who have access to the media, taking from the Khalifa and spreading the message of the Khalifa, then we should also take it upon ourselves to make sure that the teachings of the Khalifa, particularly those speeches the Uzur, the present Khalifa, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz, delivered at those at the American Congress, at the EU, all of those things should be translated into local languages, and there should be voiced messages. In fact, those books should come as audiobooks in local languages, because people don't read, no longer read any. But if we have such audios serialized via the social media, via the conventional media, I think gradually the message, the true message, will start spreading.
Jazakumullahu khairan. I'm Professor Sahib. Viewers, now we will listen to the guidance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, regarding religious extremism.
You see, Islamic teachings has nothing to do with terrorism. Allah Ta'ala says very clearly, categorically in the Holy Quran, that the killing of a person is akin to the killing of the whole of mankind. And saving a life of one person is as you have saved the life of the whole of the mankind. Right? Then Holy Quran says that killing a person without reason will take you to the hell. Right? The Holy Quran says killing a believer will lead you to go to hell. What Muslims are doing? Muslims are killing each other. So all those who are killing each other, according to the teaching of the Holy Quran and according to the narrations of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they will go to hell. And then Islam says that to spread Islam, you should not use sword. Even when the first commandment of fighting back the enemies of Islam was given, in the Surah Hajj, and that clearly says that you have been granted permission to fight back, to retaliate these enemies of Islam, because if now you leave them to do whatever they like, then you will not see any religion on the face of the earth. So you will not see any synagogue, any church, any temple, or any mosque intact. So here, where the permission is given to fight back, is not to save Islam or to spread Islam, but to save the religion. And that is Judaism, Christianity, and other religions. So it is written in the Holy Quran. Allah Ta'ala says, there will not be any synagogue, any church, any temple, and then at the end says any mosque, if you did not retaliate. So that shows Islam is not a militant religion. Rather, it protects the religion. It is against the terrorism. It is against extremism. Whatever the present day people are doing in the name of Islam, they are actually defaming the name of Islam. They are trying to misinterpret the verses of the Holy Quran in their favor, that the jihad is permitted and very much important in Islam. What type of jihad they are doing? Allah Ta'ala says, if a believer kills a believer, he will go to hell. So here, in the extremism, we see these people, those who are terrorists or extremists, they are fighting with each other in the Muslim countries. Here you will see very rare cases in the Europe where they come and kill some non-Muslim. But in Muslim countries, they are killing each other. And it means they are making their place in hell, not in the paradise. As I have already said, Islam protects all the religion, and it has nothing to do with extremism or terrorism or destroying other religions or spreading the message of Islam with swords.
That was the guidance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V on religious extremism. Respected guests, now we'll have your final thoughts. What do you want to leave our audience or our viewers with? Dr. Oyebosai, just in very few sentences, what do you want to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, what I will leave the viewers with is a verse from the Holy Quran, chapter 3 of the Surah Al Imran, where Almighty Allah told Rasulullah that Kul in kuntum tuhibuna Allah, brother, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Kul in kuntum tuhibuna Allah, fattabi'uni yuhibbukumullah wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum. So God is telling us that if you love me, Allah, follow Rasulullah. And what are the principles that Rasulullah laid? Principle of love. So let us radiate love. Let it continue to radiate in our midst, in our community, in our society, wherever we belong to, and the rest will be history.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Mishnah Edun Sahib, what do you want to leave our viewers with?
The advice that I would like to give our audience at home is that in all we have said, we should try as much as we can to always be a good ambassador of Islam, represent Islam wherever you are, and you should not be extreme in your views, your ideas, and your ideology anywhere.
Professor Saib.
A true religion is known by what it teaches. Any religion that does not teach love of fellow human beings is not a true religion. Islam is a true religion. It teaches peace, it teaches love, it teaches universal brotherhood. Allah says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. If He had willed, He would have made you one community. وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ. But He did not do it because He wants to test you with what He has given you. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Because of that, compete with one another, vie with one another in good deeds. Vie with Muslims, with Christians, with Jews, with Buddhists, let's have a healthy competition in good deeds, and this world will be a better place for us.
Jazakumullahu khairan to our respected guests, Dr. Yebo Sahib, Jazakumullahu khairan, Muallim Edwin Sahib, Jazakumullahu khairan, Professor Timei Sahib, Jazakumullahu khairan. We appreciate you. And to my ever-listening audience, Jazakumullahu khairan for being with us. Viewers at home, we have listened to so many interesting and educative points on religious extremism. And as our guests have said, Islam is a moderate religion. We should not be extreme in our views or thoughts, and be good ambassadors of Islam Ahmadiyya in everywhere we find ourselves. We say Jazakumullahu khairan for being with us once again. For comments, feedbacks, or questions, please reach out to us via africa@mta.tv. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.